The night the masks fell started with a silence that felt heavier than any battle. Deep under the city in a dark underground command center, Adrian Vale sat alone at a steel table. The screens around him were dark. No alarms. No missions. No team. Just the quiet. A few days earlier, everything had exploded. Files he created in secret had been stolen. Inside those files were plans, detailed strategies showing how to stop every member of the Sentinel Alliance if they ever went rogue. Now everyone knew. To them, it looked like betrayal. To Adrian, it was insurance. But the damage was done. No one trusted him anymore. The team that once fought side by side across galaxies was now falling apart because of one thing: fear. Footsteps echoed through the corridor. Slow. Calm. Familiar. Adrian didn't look up when Daniel Cross walked into the room. Daniel didn't wear his armor tonight. No glowing suit. No symbol of power. Just a simple jacket and tired eyes. For a long moment, neither of them spoke. Finally, Daniel said quietly, "You really thought the only way to protect us was to plan how to destroy us?" Adrian leaned back in his chair, staring into the shadows. "I did what needed to be done." Daniel sighed. Not angry. Just exhausted. And in that moment, Adrian realized something terrifying. The world's greatest team wasn't breaking because of villains. It was breaking because of him. Daniel stood in the middle of the dim command room, the only light coming from a weak lamp above the table. It cast long shadows across the walls of Adrian's underground base. For years, this place had been the brain of the Sentinel Alliance. Every mission, every strategy, every impossible victory started here. Now it felt empty. Broken. Daniel looked at Adrian for a long moment before speaking again. "They voted," he said quietly. Adrian's eyes finally moved. "They removed you." The words hung in the air like smoke. Adrian didn't react right away. He simply nodded once, like he had already expected it. "That makes things easier," he muttered. But Daniel shook his head slowly. "No. It doesn't." He stepped closer to the table. "You don't understand what this did to everyone." Adrian said nothing. Daniel continued, his voice calm but heavy. "People are watching each other now. Every mission briefing feels like an interrogation. No one knows who to trust anymore. The Alliance had always been different from other teams. They weren't soldiers. They weren't controlled by governments. Trust was the only thing holding them together. And now that trust was gone." Daniel took a deep breath. "And that kryptonite weapon you designed for me," he added quietly. Adrian finally looked up. Daniel's voice stayed soft. "That thing ended up in the hands of the Obsidian Syndicate." A pause. "It almost killed me." The room went silent again. Then Daniel said the words Adrian had been avoiding. "The Sentinel Alliance is falling apart. And it's happening because of you." Adrian leaned forward slowly, his hands resting on the cold metal table. The words Daniel had just said echoed in the quiet room. "The Sentinel Alliance is falling apart." For a long moment, Adrian didn't answer. He stared at the wall like he was studying a problem only he could see. Finally, he spoke. "They'll recover," Adrian said calmly. "Teams always do." Daniel gave a small, tired shake of his head. "Not this time." He walked over to the large screen at the center of the cave and tapped a control. Several news feeds appeared. Reports of rising threats. Cities calling for help. Smaller heroes trying to hold the line. Without the Alliance, things were already getting worse. Daniel turned back to Adrian. "You built this team," he said. "You taught us how to work together. But now everyone is looking over their shoulder because they think you're still planning against them." Adrian's jaw tightened slightly. "That was never the point." "I know," Daniel replied. "But intent doesn't matter anymore. What people feel matters." The room went quiet again. Then Daniel said something softer. "You don't have to stay like this, Adrian. Hiding down here. Letting everything burn." Adrian slowly looked up. "What do you want me to do?" he asked. Daniel didn't hesitate. "Call them." Adrian frowned. "The whole team." Daniel nodded. "Bring everyone here. Tonight." Adrian leaned back again, thinking. Above them, the world was getting more dangerous by the hour. And for the first time, Adrian realized fixing this might require something far harder than defeating any enemy. Adrian stood slowly from the chair, the metal legs scraping softly across the floor. He walked toward the giant screen Daniel had activated earlier. News reports continued to flash across it. Cities asking for help. Strange threats appearing around the world, people wondering where the Sentinel Alliance had gone. For years, the team had been the world's safety net. Now the net was tearing apart. Adrian folded his arms and stared at the screen. "You think calling them here will fix this?" he asked. Daniel stepped beside him. "No," he said honestly. "But it's the only place to start." Adrian let out a quiet breath. Daniel then said the one thing Adrian had hoped he wouldn't bring up again. "That weapon you built." Adrian didn't move. "The kryptonite variant," Daniel continued. "The one designed to stop me." Adrian's voice was calm. "A last resort." Daniel nodded slowly. "I know why you built it." Adrian looked at him. "But when the Obsidian Syndicate got their hands on it," Daniel said quietly, "it almost ended me." For a moment, the room felt smaller. Adrian had planned for every possible disaster, except the one where his own precautions became the real danger. Daniel looked directly at him. "You weren't wrong to prepare," he said. "You were wrong to do it alone." Adrian stared at the floor. For the first time since the crisis began, the strategist of the Sentinel Alliance realized something painful. His greatest mistake wasn't the plans. It was the secrecy. And if trust had been broken in silence, then maybe it had to be rebuilt in the open. The command center felt colder than before. Adrian stood in front of the dark screens, while Daniel watched him quietly from across the room. The silence between them was no longer just tension, it was realization. Adrian had always believed control was the only way to protect the world. Plan for every threat. Prepare for every failure. Never be surprised. But now those same plans had nearly destroyed the very team they were meant to protect. Daniel walked slowly around the table. "You know what the real problem is," he said. Adrian didn't answer. Daniel continued. "You never trusted us to stand beside you. You only trusted yourself to stop us." Those words landed harder than any punch. Adrian finally spoke. "I trusted you to save the world," he said quietly. "But I also had to prepare for the day you couldn't." Daniel nodded slowly. "That's exactly the problem." He pointed toward the empty chairs surrounding the table. This team was never built on perfect plans. Adrian looked at the chairs. Each one belonged to someone who had fought beside him for years. Now, most of them refused to even speak to him. Daniel's voice softened. "Trust isn't something you design in secret files." Adrian closed his eyes for a moment. Everything he feared had happened. The Alliance no longer felt like a team. It felt like strangers wearing the same symbol. And the worst part was the truth Adrian could no longer ignore. The greatest strategist on Earth had prepared for every enemy in the world, except the damage caused by his own fear. Adrian slowly lowered himself back into the chair. For the first time in years, the room that once felt like a war command center now felt like a prison. Every screen around him was dark. No missions. No alerts from the Sentinel Alliance. Just silence. Daniel watched him carefully. "You see it now," Daniel said. Adrian didn't respond. He already did. The team was gone. Not officially. Not yet. But the bond that made them strong had shattered. Every member was operating alone now, taking smaller missions, avoiding each other. The Sentinel Alliance used to feel unstoppable. Now it felt like a memory. Adrian stared at the empty chairs around the table again. He remembered the laughter after victories, the arguments during strategy meetings, the long nights planning how to save the world. All of it felt far away. "Maybe this is how it ends," Adrian said quietly. Daniel stepped closer. "You don't believe that?" Adrian looked up at him, tired. "They voted me out. They don't trust me. And honestly, I don't blame them." Daniel leaned against the table. "Trust isn't gone," he said. "It's buried." Adrian let out a quiet breath. "How do you fix something like this?" Daniel didn't answer right away. Then he said one simple thing. "You stop hiding." Adrian frowned. Daniel pointed toward the emergency beacon console on the far wall. "Call them. Not for a mission. For the truth." Adrian looked at the console across the room. One signal. Every member would come running. And for the first time in his life, Adrian realized something terrifying. Saving the world had always been easier than facing his own team. Adrian stood up slowly. The emergency beacon on the wall blinked quietly in the darkness of the command center. A single switch. One signal that would summon every member of the Sentinel Alliance. For years that signal meant one thing. Adrian walked toward it, his footsteps echoing through the underground base. Daniel stayed behind the table, watching carefully. "You're sure about this?" Daniel asked. Adrian stopped in front of the console. "No," he said honestly. For most of his life, Adrian believed secrets were necessary. Information was power. Control was safety. But tonight had already proven something else. Secrecy had destroyed the team faster than any enemy ever could. Adrian placed his hand on the switch. "If they come here expecting a fight," he said quietly, "they'll get the truth instead." Daniel crossed his arms. "That might be harder." Adrian gave a faint, tired smile. "I know." Then he flipped the switch. Across the world, alarms lit up in hidden bases, satellites, and personal communicators. The signal was unmistakable. Alliance emergency. Highest priority. Within minutes, the sky above the underground base began to fill with streaks of light as heroes rushed toward the call. Some came flying. Some arrived through portals. Others dropped from stealth aircraft. They all expected a battle. But Adrian had prepared something very different. For the first time since the Sentinel Alliance was formed, their leader was about to remove the one shield he had always hidden behind. The mask. The underground base doors opened one after another. Members of the Sentinel Alliance rushed inside ready for war. Some arrived still wearing full combat armor. Others carried weapons already charged with energy. Everyone moved fast, expecting an enemy waiting in the shadows. But the room was quiet. Too quiet. They stepped into the command center and froze. Standing near the center table was a man in a simple dark suit. No armor, no helmet, no symbol of the Alliance. Just a man. He looked exhausted. For a few seconds, no one spoke. Then someone whispered, "Where's Adrian?" The man stepped forward. "I'm right here." The room went completely still. It took a moment for the realization to spread across their faces. The strategist they had followed for years, the mysterious leader who always worked from the shadows, was standing in front of them without the mask. Adrian Vale. No secrets left. A few people stared in shock. Others exchanged confused looks. One member even laughed nervously, like his brain refused to accept what he was seeing. Daniel stepped forward next. He removed the last piece of armor from his shoulders. "My name is Daniel Cross," he said calmly. "And I'm done hiding too." Silence filled the room again. Slowly, one by one, the others began removing their masks. For the first time, the Sentinel Alliance wasn't a group of legends. It was just people. People choosing to trust each other again. The tension didn't vanish, but suddenly it felt unnecessary. And that night something stronger than secrets finally began to rebuild the team. Comment 1 for the next part.